Thank you very much, and welcome to the webinar. Today we're really excited to talk to you about OneAbility and how that has evolved as a collective impact approach to improving opportunities for individuals with disabilities to be involved in sport and physical activity in the Greater Victoria region. So as Tyler said, my name is Andrea Carey. I'm the Director of Operations and Special Projects with Sport for Life Society, and I've been working on inclusive projects across the country over the last few years, and this area of disability is near and dear to my heart because I'm also on the Board of Directors with the Canadian Paralympic Committee and the Active Living Alliance for Canadians with a Disability. And we had a really tremendous opportunity in Victoria a couple years ago, and so we're going to share that journey with you today. And I'd like to also introduce my co-presenter, Alyssa Hindle, and she'll tell you a little bit about herself.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Hindle. I'm the Manager of Community Requests and Inclusion at CanAssist at the University of Victoria. CanAssist builds assistive devices for people with disabilities to help promote inclusion and quality of life and independence. So part of our mission also includes this inclusion piece where I've been working closely with Andrea Carey on the OneAbility project.
So we'd like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional territories where we're on today, which is of the Coast Salish peoples, but we'd also like to acknowledge other territories both within this province and across the country, as we appreciate that there's people joining us from different areas. We are so grateful to be guests living and working and playing on traditional territories throughout this country. We also want to thank our key funding partner for this project. With the BC Sport Participation Program funding, we received bilateral funds from the federal government and the province of British Columbia. So we gratefully acknowledge that support, and it has allowed us to not only produce these 3 webinars in this series, but we've also been able to deliver workshops in 3 different locations across the province over the last 6 months or so. So we're excited that we're kind of in the last few weeks of that funding and being able to offer these webinars. So we started this journey with OneAbility, really identifying that in Victoria there was a tremendous number of programming opportunities and a great number of groups that were doing great work around, including individuals with disabilities in different opportunities. However, they really weren't working together or communicating or collaborating on any of these projects. So we found that there was a huge void in how programming was being delivered across the region, and a bit of a lack of communication, as I said, around even what each other was doing in the space. So we identified this in sort of February 2015. And started to figure out how we might come together to change that as an issue. So we looked at what would our desired impact be, and really we wanted a strategy that would take recreation and high performance sport to a new level for individuals with disabilities locally and beyond. And so we started with a group of about 5 or 6 different partners sitting at the table, imagining what this could look like and how we could make an impact in building capacity and sharing best practices and communicating across what each of us were doing in the region. So some of the pieces that we started to look at were really our outcomes, which would be to strengthen and improve programs that already existed, to begin new programs where there was gaps, to build capacity for those who weren't currently doing something but might want to learn what they could do or how they could be more inclusive of individuals with a disability across the community. We wanted to raise awareness of what programs and services existed for individuals with a disability to be involved in sport and physical activity. And we wanted to develop innovative technologies that would support individuals with disabilities to be more active in their life. So really our goal was to make sport and recreation more accessible and inclusive for people with different disabilities in our region. Sorry, I skipped a slide. In order to do that, we spent the first few months really having a discussion about what that would look like and how we would start to work together. And it kept coming up that we needed a governance model in order to do this work. And what would that governance model look like? And should we create a new organization? What were the benefits or challenges with doing so? And around that same time, I had the good fortune of being involved with another project that was starting to look at using a collective impact approach. So we looked at the collective impact approach and felt like that would be potentially a good model to look at, because we didn't want to create another organization. Within the organizations that were already doing work across the region, there was a bit of a sense of competition, some areas where there was a lack of trust in terms of how we work together, and we felt if we created another organization, another society, for example, that would just further build the feeling of competition within the various organizations. So we needed something that was a much more collaborative approach. So we looked at collective impact, and really we felt like that was a foundation to look at how we would solve this problem together and be able to collaborate across solving the problem. So there's 5 conditions of collective impact, and we really looked at where each of those would start to fit within what we were doing. It was pretty easy for us to agree on a common agenda, a bit of a vision or mission for the work we were doing. We had already started to imagine what that would be. A shared measurement system is really looking at sort of how we would measure our success and coming up with key indicators. And we have had goals that we've worked towards over the last couple of years that we track on an annual basis when we do an annual review each sort of June, July. Our annual review is actually coming up next week. We haven't come up with a sort of larger scale measurement that we want to track, and that's one of our next steps, but we have come up with smaller goals and been able to track those over the 2 years of the evolution of OneAbility. We looked at mutually reinforcing activities, and really that's the engagement of different stakeholders across different sectors, coordinating and coming up with a plan of action that we all agree to. And so that one, again, was also fairly easy because it was all work that we already believed in and were already doing. Continuous communication, so looking at how we continue to talk to each other and work together and share what each other's doing across the different organizations that are involved in OneAbility. And continuous communication obviously takes time and energy, and I would say that this group has been very good when we're sitting in a room together sharing. It's a little more challenging over email and some of the other mechanisms, but overall, because we have fairly regular meetings with the different subgroups, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, we have found that continuous communication has worked pretty well for us. And then identifying a backbone organization. And a backbone organization is really an organization that provides ongoing support and helps really ensure that there's some administrative support, potentially financial support, helping mobilize funding requests, those types of things. And so our backbone organization for this collective impact approach has been CanAssist, and so we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So I spoke about the common agenda, and we had already come up with kind of a mission, a vision, and some values for this work prior to coming up with the governance structure of a collective impact approach. And so that common agenda became, through collaborative leadership, awareness, and innovation, OneAbility provides exceptional adapted physical activity programs and services that promote active living and the pursuit of sport excellence. So as I said, that has worked pretty well for us over the last 2 years or so that we've been following that. And, you know, we check in each year, and I would say it's still pretty relevant to the work we're doing. And then we had to look at how we were going to organize all of this work. And this is a diagram that you can find easily on the internet. It really is it's one option about how you can organize a collective impact style approach. And so you can see that shared visions in the middle across that one line that goes through the middle. And we just talked about what our shared vision really is with the common agenda. Below that, you'll see the stewardship group. And the stewardship group is really kind of the hub that helps drive the work of the constellations and the collaboration overall. And we'll talk a little bit about the constellations and the stewardship group in a couple minutes. But we really want that lightweight governance when you look at those enabling factors, that we're moving things forward with action, and that there's a coordinating body, which has been our backbone body. So when you look up above the line, you'll see different constellations and having lead partners kind of driving those constellations. So constellations can also be thought of as subcommittees or subgroups, and we determined what our constellations would look like based on the type of work we wanted to do it and how we might work together to do that work.
So from that image, we modified it to best match the members of our committees and also the different organizations that we had and the visions that each of those organizations brought to OneAbility as a whole. So this is our model for our constellation group for the OneAbility Collaborative. And what you can see is that in the middle we have that stewardship group. So this is the group that's really responsible for overseeing the direction of OneAbility as a whole, and also identifying new opportunities. And it also is a platform for all of the different constellation chairs to come together and collaborate as a whole. So within OneAbility, we have the stewardship group, but then we also have these other constellations, which are comprised of different organizations, and also different key partners lead all of these different constellations. So each constellation will have either one or two chair people, and those chair people also sit on the stewardship group to help translate that information forwards. Memberships range, so some of our groups have as few as 5 people sitting on them. Some of our groups have upwards of 20 people. It really is just to match whatever the interest is, because we're willing to engage any partner who's interested in this work and can contribute to this work in the region. So some members sit on one group, some members sit on more than one group, and they can attend meetings or call into the meetings, send the updates through the meeting minutes, that sort of thing. Some of these constellations have really scheduled meetings, so sometimes it's biannual or 4 times a year. Some of them are more project-based. So we'll move on to the next slide. So just referencing back to that stewardship group, it really is the glue to OneAbility. So we have many, many different partners and many, many different organizations all contributing to this initiative. And so the stewardship group really helps to align all of those initiatives together so that we continue to drive towards this co-mission that we've all come together to create. So the OneAbility stewardship group, it's made up of key partners, and it's also made up of the leaders of the different constellation groups. So that creates a line of communication back from each constellation group to the stewardship group. So within OneAbility, our stewardship group and our fund development group meets together. So the purpose of these two groups are to tie the work of the constellations together. They also advocate to different government groups and other funding groups, helping to communicate the importance of OneAbility and also the successes that we've had so far to help support initiatives that are coming down the pipe. It is the central hub of operations. So coming up next week, as Andrea mentioned, we have this year in review meeting that the stewardship group really leads. And it's an invitation to all members of the OneAbility group to come together and help evaluate our goals from last year and create new goals for next year. So within this stewardship group, their purpose is really to make the key governance and leadership decisions for the OneAbility Collective. Fund development falls under that umbrella, and the fund development purpose is to help coordinate grants, to seek funding opportunities, and also to determine which partner is the best fit for these funding initiatives. So some funding opportunities are only available to certain classifications of organizations, or the initiative fits best under one organization versus another. So as a collective, we do determine which organizations are best suited to apply for those funding opportunities. And oftentimes with our joint funding applications, we sort of split up the funding amongst the different partners that contribute to that initiative, though the initiative is applied for by one organization on behalf of OneAbility. So together, this group is comprised of the Constellation chair people and also the other key members. So our next Constellation group is Research and Innovation, and the purpose of this group is really to advance research in the areas of adapted sport, recreation, and health. So this group is an interesting group because it doesn't meet on a regular basis like many of the other constellations. Just through our experience working with the group, it turned out that meeting on a project by project basis was best suited. So what's happened so far with Research and Innovation is we together as a collaborative will communicate on different gaps in the research, different interests of the different parties, and together we'll create joint funding applications. And as those funds are aligned with projects, then this group meets on that project by project basis. So it's a bit unique in that sense. This next group is our Education and Knowledge Mobilization group. So the purpose of this group is really to facilitate and support presentations to help improve education around disability and also around specific topics pertaining to disability. So another purpose is to create and present content to grow awareness. And we really do this through engaging all the different members on the committee. So our two co-chairs for this committee both happen to be directors at two different post-secondary institutions in the city. So through having those links to these post-secondary programs and schools, we're able to better align the different educational opportunities that are available to post-secondary students, but it also trickles down and helps us align better education opportunities for community training as well. So reps from other organizations sit on this committee outside of these two post-secondary institutions, and this really helps us to raise the awareness of disability topics in the region. Goals for this group have included a joint degree program between the two institutions, hosting student-led conferences around disability and sport. Other goals have included hosting webinars, workshops, and other educational opportunities, also hosting resources on the website and connecting inquiries to the correct experts. This brings us to event hosting, and the purpose of event hosting is to host opportunities to showcase sport and physical activity pursuits for individuals with a disability. So the outcomes for this group have really been our OneAbility Promotion Week. And so what this is it's a week-long event that this will be our third year running it. And we've got partners from many different sectors contributing to it, where we focus on education opportunities, try-it opportunities, demonstrations, and awareness building. And that's really been the target of this constellation. And that event is unique to OneAbility, so it didn't exist prior to this collaboration coming together. So the next one is program and athlete training. This one is a really highly attended constellation. So we've got upwards of 20 members from all different organizations providing different programs to people with and without disabilities in the region. So the purpose is really to identify programming gaps in the system and then to create new opportunities to fill those gaps. And we've also been able to enhance existing programs through sharing our resources and through these partnerships. So one of the biggest outcomes from this constellation has been that the programmers and the people delivering these services are better connected. So we know it exists in the region, and when individuals come to programs that they might be better suited for another program or it better aligns with their interests, these programmers and service delivery people are better able to divert and direct individuals to the supports and to the programs that best suit them. So it's really helped to raise awareness amongst the programmers, and it's also really helped to create a better referral system in the region. New programs have also been started because of this constellation. So through getting together and identifying where the gaps are, we've been able to identify opportunities and actually create new programs and also generate revenue and generate funding to help support those programs. I missed one. Our final constellation to talk about is the Community and Awareness Building Group. So this group is really our outward-facing group. So they take all of the information, programs, events that OneAbility is working on and help to communicate that to the community at large. So they're building awareness and promotion, and they're also supporting the work of all of the other constellations through sharing this messaging. So they'll work on media releases, communication strategies. They'll search out opportunities for either better networking or better communication streams. They've done a consolidation of all of the different communication streams within the OneAbility partners, and this has enabled us to, again, better communicate within these broader networks. And they are also responsible for the web support. So this group is the group to identify who our webmaster is.
Excellent. I'm going to pause there for a second and see if we've got questions that have come in that we should address prior to moving on to our next few slides. So, no questions? All right, no questions so far, but feel free to write them in the chat box if you do have any questions, and then or put up your hand, and we're happy to address those. So I'll just pause for a second and see if anyone wants to raise their hand and ask a question on verbally prior to us continuing. Okay, we're gonna let Amy speak because she's got a few questions. So Amy, are you ready to go?
Yeah, I am actually.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, we had some audio problems at the beginning, so you may have answered this, but OneAbility, is it or is it not a separate registered organization?
Great question, and we did talk about that. It is not a registered organization. We intentionally did not make it so because we felt that it would add competition with the existing organizations that were delivering services and programming within our region. And so we did not make an organization. We went with more of a collective impact approach, which does not have a formal governance structure such as an organization would.
Okay, perfect. And I know you mentioned part of what you guys do in one of the constellations is advocacy to government. And I know we've had some, anyway, we're talking about that here in Edmonton. And the concern here is that receiving provincial funding for something sort of precludes you from being able to advocate to the government. Do you guys have any issues around that?
Well, I wouldn't say that we're necessarily an advocacy organization. We certainly want to build awareness across both the region and the public, and we certainly communicate with government, but we don't advocate to government necessarily. And we have been successful, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, in making a number of grant applications. One of them was the funding we received for the work that has helped fund this webinar, which was through a bilateral grant from the federal and provincial government.
Okay. And have you had any pushback from organizations that would be involved in OneAbility? Has anybody decided not to be part of it and said, sort of, this doesn't really work for me?
That's a great question. I would say at the beginning, and that's actually what I was going to talk about on the next slide a little bit, so I'll preempt with this, and then when I dive into the slide, I won't speak to that quite as much. At the beginning, there was a high lack of trust, I'll say. People were really kind of suspect about what this was about and how it would impact them negatively, rather than appreciating that by working together, we would all be more successful. So it took us several months and of kind of regular meetings and talking about where we were going, And I think when we finally cemented a collaborative structure rather than another organization, that really helped put people's mind at ease. I would say the other win has been when we put in cooperative funding applications, that we've been really successful with those. That has also really helped kind of win people over. So it was about 6 months, I would say, of a high degree of kind of people being suspect and not really trusting the process. And then as we started to have some smaller wins and then larger wins, then people kind of let go of that and have been much more highly invested. So we haven't had anyone say they don't want to be involved. It's all voluntary to show up. So, you know, sometimes people are absent because their workload's higher, or they just don't have capacity to be engaged at that time. But we so far have been seeing everyone come back in various ways at various points.
Okay, and then just one more, kind of more about the financial management. So if you're not a separate organization, where do you run the money through? And if you just have your own bank account or whatever, like, does the stewardship group have insurance like you would for a board of directors, just to ensure that there's no sort of misappropriation or fraud or things like that?
Good question. So we don't have a bank account. We're not an organization, so we can't get a bank account. We, each partner, when funding opportunities comes up, we have a discussion amongst the partners that are interested in applying to it and determine who would be the best fit for that application to come from. Within the grant applications, we articulate that we're working as a collaborative and what the premise of that collaborative is. Each organization that is a partner in OneAbility has their own insurance. So it's not like a board of directors. These people are essentially putting time into this as part of their jobs, and so their insurance through their existing organizations would cover their involvement in this. And then whomever the organization that has received the grant is then responsible for reporting back on the grant and how the funds have been spent.
Perfect.
Okay, excellent. We are going to keep moving with the slides. I have a little thing popped up that says screen sharing is paused. Tyler, do you have that? Oh, it went away. Okay, we're going to keep going. Okay, so next slide. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of our key accomplishments in the 2.5 years that we've been doing this work. And I think one of our biggest is that we have about 40 organizations that are partners within this work. And this is a snapshot of some of those partners. It's certainly not inclusive of all, but gives you a pretty good idea of some of the ones that are engaged. So we have local organizations, regional organizations, provincial, and national organizations that are all part of this. And so, as I said, in answering Amy's question, we have, you know, pretty wide range of who those people are, their commitment levels, what constellations they're contributing to, whether they're part of the stewardship committee, but they all are committing someone's staff time in some way to be engaged along this pathway. The real change was one, as I said previously, from competition with the different organizations to collaboration with the different organizations, and so that's truly been the biggest win. Their next key accomplishment is really building the awareness. So we've been the recipient of quite a bit of publicity over the couple of years that we've been doing this work. So we were featured in the Accessibility 2024 two-year update. Accessibility 2024 is a provincial government initiative to try and enhance accessibility opportunities for individuals living with disabilities across the province. And so some of us have been involved in their initial consultations and the development of their plan. and then we were able to share our story of the work that had been done in Greater Victoria around this space. We've also obviously had a number of discussions with the provincial government and with different agencies across the country, and then we've had quite a few media clips as well. Through our community building and awareness building Constellation, we were also able to create a website, and that really came up as something that the group strongly desired, that there would be a hub for all of the information around what programming and opportunities existed for individuals with disabilities to be engaged in sport and physical activity. And so our website launched approximately a year ago, actually, and that was at our first annual review meeting, and we continue to work to populate it as we go forward.
So how the website is managed is that most of the partners will contribute content. Some partners have contributed to the hosting fee, and we've had other partners who have skills in content management, so actually developing the website. So it was developed through a partner, it's managed through a partner, and it's also been paid for through a different partner. So there is a unique challenge with being this collective impact model where there isn't a designated staff, in that we need to keep the website up to date and relevant, but it also can't have a really high demand for the administration because we don't have a lot of administrative support on that side. So that certainly is a challenge and something that you would need to consider implementing something similar in a different region.
So with our program and athlete training Constellation, we have been able to initiate some new programming for the region. So I'm going to let Alyssa talk about blind soccer and then adapted climbing, and then I'll talk about the Sledge Hockey program.
Sure. So blind soccer was a program that started about a year and a half ago at UVic. Two students from UVic's School of Exercise Science, Physical Health Education had heard about the OneAbility Collective, and through one of their fourth-year courses, they identified that Canada wasn't able to field a game or field a team for the Para-Pan Am Games in blind soccer. And that is mainly because there aren't any programs for blind soccer, particularly in Victoria. So they approached us at OneAbility and had this idea for a program. We were able to partner with Bikes, Athletics, and Recreation at UVic. They're another OneAbility partner, and the program has been running ever since. So the student volunteers, they run the program. Actually, an alumni from that class that they took, he paid for the audible balls and also the blindfolds. BC Blind Sports provided our first audible ball and also provided training for the student volunteers. And it's a really highly attended program. So that's just another example of the successes that we can achieve when we begin to work together and people can identify where these opportunities might be. There's also the adapted climbing program. So this was a joint funding application from Bikes, Athletics, and Recreation and CanAssist, and we applied to Good Life Kids Foundation and received funding to run this new adapted climbing program. From that, we had Connect's Autism Network and Power to Be, two other community partners within OneAbility. They provided training to the volunteers, and Power to Be also provided their waitlisted volunteers to help supplement the volunteers we had found. Two additional OneAbility partners, so Community Living Victoria and Queen Alexandra Centre for Children's Health, they brought their clients to the climbing program, and we were able to support 43 youth, I think, over 10-week programs to access the climbing wall. And we saw a lot of really great success there, where kids with different disabilities who weren't even comfortable touching the wall on the first session were climbing fully up the wall by the last session. There's actually a really powerful blog on the UVic website by one of the student volunteers, and it's titled "My Best Experience at UVic was Volunteering for the Carsa Climbing Program," and it's really moving, and the volunteer outlines how it changed her perspective around working with people with different abilities, and it also really opened her mind to this area of work.
Excellent. And so Sledge Hockey was one of the other programs that came up as an opportunity for OneAbility to be engaged in. We are located in the same city as BC Hockey. BC Hockey has about 30 sledge hockey sleds that were sitting in their basement collecting dust. They use them for some special events, but they don't use them on a regular basis. And there's no sledge hockey program on Vancouver Island. And so there was a group coming together to talk about how we could create, how they could use the sleds and create more accessible public skate opportunities. And we heard about this and suggested that we also look at creating a sledge hockey program. And so we brought in BC Hockey Sportability, who does sledge hockey as the disability sport organization in BC. And we met with the local rec center, West Shore Parks and Recreation, and with Victoria Wheelchair Sport to be the local sport club that would take this under their wing. And with that partnership, we were able to get access to those sleds, find an ice time, and start to offer the program and get some coach training underway. We were also really fortunate to get a few small grants to help get us started. And so that program has now, it's in its second season, and in the fall it looks like we're going to get really prime ice time, which will help us bring in more members. This spring we've had really great success though with a number of people with varying disabilities showing up and trying the program and really liking it. So we think that by moving to the Saturday afternoon time in the fall, we'll really see that program kind of explode. And we now have a foundation of people that have tried it. So we have a little video clip about, this was when we first started it, so it's a little outdated, but we thought it would be a good synopsis of the program to date.
There's no question that hockey is Canada's #1 sport. There's also no question that we're pretty good at it. But for some, the ability to play the sport that most of us have grown up with has been cruelly taken away due to some severe injury. Well, that's all about to change here on Vancouver Island with a brand new program that will let anyone take to the ice. Sledge hockey. It's been around for a while, but this is a brand new sport for Vancouver Island. And it's all thanks to a team of dedicated staff and volunteers. My name is Andy Van Udertum, and I've been involved with sledge hockey for about the last year. I was also involved with Hockey Canada in the build-up to the World Championships in 2015. It's an amazing sport. Just like stand-up hockey, just you get to sit down and you have two blades underneath you. Really hard sport, very, very fast, very physical, and it's just an incredibly exciting sport. So Andy, this is a typical sledge. This is something, if you're a beginner, this is what you're going to start off with, I understand. Absolutely, yes. Some of the features that make it a beginner sled is that we have the blades wide apart here. That allows for a lot more stability. If you were to be more advanced or play on the national team, right, you would see the blades quite close together, which allows better stopping and a lot more speed. Very lightweight. What about the seats? I would assume this is flexible as well, depending on the length of your legs and sure how you're going to sit. This is adjustable for beginner players where we can move it in or out so your feet can rest right here. Okay. Again, if you play more advanced, you probably get these far more secured. This bucket is a typical plastic bucket, and again, you can get them in different sizes. Very comfortable, but again, as you move up to more advanced, you get one that be sized to your body. And of course, you've got customized sticks. Yes, we have the sticks here, and clearly we have the picks, and regulations, they have to have 3 picks. Okay. And again, they would hold it and pick the ice, and then of course, when they're ready, they would shoot. With various regional partners, Andy and his team have formed OneAbility, an organization geared to bring all forms of adaptive sport under one umbrella. They've been actively promoting the sledge hockey program at local rinks, including a demo at a recent Grizzlies game. This is an example of a community program that we want to get started here in Victoria. We want to encourage people to come out, get involved in disability sport with or without a physical disability, and enjoy themselves.
The most fun is it's something that most people have never tried, but it allows all abilities to take part.
It's fun. I've never been in a sled before, first time, and hard to get the hang of it, but it's a lot of fun.
Just trying to create as much opportunity for people with disabilities or people without disabilities to enjoy this game and take it where they want it to go. And that's the beauty of sport, is to enjoy it at whatever level that is suitable for you.
So if you want to get involved, the program is free and it happens right here at the Juan de Fuca Arena in Colwood, Mondays at 2 o'clock, right through until the end of March. Or if you'd like more information, you can email the folks at OneAbility at sledgehockeyvictoria@gmail.com.
All right, so hopefully that gives you a good snapshot of some of the work we've been doing around sledge hockey. One of our other key accomplishments has been around the fund development Constellation, and I spoke a little bit about this a few minutes ago, that by working together and collaborating on program opportunities, we have had some great success this year in obtaining different funds to support those programs. So we have a fund or some grant money through the Victoria Foundation that's working on more of our community awareness training, and that's been a partnership with Recreation Integration Victoria really leading that, but several of the partners being involved in it. We are doing this work today on the webinar and with workshops around the sport participation program, and looking at webinars, workshops, and creating an adaptive fitness handbook. So that work will be completed by the end of this month. We have had an adaptive climbing program, and we got funding through Good Life Kids Foundation to support that, and Alyssa spoke about that program a few minutes ago. We have also gotten a barrier buster grant through the Rick Hansen Foundation for some infrastructure improvements at the CARSA facility at UVic, and also to create an awareness event, which will actually be our annual OneAbility Promotion Week that we'll speak about in a couple minutes. Our next key accomplishment has been our education and knowledge mobilization Constellation, where we've done a series. We do an education day on an annual basis that really talks about a key workshop that's several hours long, and we promote that to our recreation providers in town and try and get their staff skilled up on how they can best include individuals with disabilities in programming. And last year we also offered a classification webinar to introduce the topic of classification, which was meant to be primarily with our different people within OneAbility, but we actually had interest from across the country, and so we did that in partnership with the Canadian Paralympic Committee. And then our next key accomplishment is really been around looking at our webinars and workshops, and so we have had this series of webinars. This is the second one. There's another one next week around inclusive fitness that Jonathan Rochelle will be hosting, and then we've done the workshops in 3 locations across the province. There's one left to happen, but we've hosted those in Whistler, Nanaimo, and Kamloops.
So one of the key accomplishments for our event hosting has been this OneAbility Promotion Week that we've mentioned a couple times before. So what we've done in the past,
I think we're frozen for a second. Bear with us, people.
We seem to have a frozen screen.
Sorry, just bear with us. We have a little technical glitch. Okay, we're going back in. Just give us a sec. Okay, I'm not sure if you saw this slide when I was speaking to it, but it was around the webinars and the workshops. So You can see on the poster we have that one more webinar, and then this is the next piece we want to talk about.
So this has been a huge success for us. This will be our 3rd annual promotion week coming up this year. And we host this event around International Day for Persons with a Disability, and that's December 3rd this year. So we'll be hosting our Education Day and also our open house on November 30th at the University of Victoria, their new CARSA facility. So in the past, what we've done is we've had an Education Day where we do have stories and training from some phenomenal presenters. And really the purpose is to enable participants to expand their knowledge about disability and the importance of incorporating inclusive values into their programming. So last year we had 3 speakers, a para-athlete, a founder of the Levitt Foundation, that was Jeff Scott. We also had an open house where people from the community can come and learn about different sports like wheelchair basketball and rugby, adapted spin, rowing, indoor sledge, and it provides them with the opportunity to test out all of these different sports that are available to them in the region. So it's a great opportunity for individuals who maybe aren't aware of what exists and are looking for a different activity to come try it out. We also facilitate free drop-in programs with our community partners throughout the region. So for that OneAbility Promotion Week, we create a list of different adapted and inclusive sport and recreation programs that they can drop in free of charge for that week. And again, just improving that awareness and exposure.
In addition to the Education Day this year, we are going to do a partner education opportunity. We have another collective impact approach group here in Victoria called the Play Group, Physical Literacy and You. And so there's going to be a physical literacy symposium on October 20th, which is the Provincial Professional Development Day for teachers. And we're anticipating we'll have close to 300 attendees at that Education Day. And so OneAbility is going to partner with the Play Group. And part of the day will be around inclusive physical literacy opportunities. And so we are looking forward to working together on that initiative.
So amongst all of these key accomplishments, really our key to success is this collaboration. So this is actually a quote from a survey result. We send out a survey before our annual review just to collect all of the different ideas of successes and challenges from our different partners. And so this quote really captures that sense of collaboration and how that has really helped improve our programs and improve the work that we do in the region. So we really have shifted from competition into collaboration, and now there's this sense of camaraderie amongst cross-organizational partners. So we regularly interact with these community partners that maybe we wouldn't have even connected with at all before. So these qualities for success, I think we missed key challenges actually.
No, it skipped.
Can you see this? There we go, key challenges. So if the key to success is collaboration, the key challenge has really been funding, communication, member accountability. So with OneAbility not being a corporation or an organization on its own, the challenge is the ability to amass this core funding to pay for administration. So our solution to that so far has been to allocate a portion of the administrative fees from each joint grant application that a different partner receives to the running of the secretariat or the administrative piece for OneAbility. In terms of member accountability, this is something that we're really focusing on this year, is just identifying what really speaks to each individual and their organization, and then also having a better understanding of what they can contribute. So some organizations contribute their graphic design support. For example, the Pacific Institute of Sport Excellence, they have helped us create the logo. They've also helped us create the template for this handbook that'll be coming out this month on adapted strength and conditioning. So really with member accountability, what we're trying to do is understand what the capacity is of each partner and also what they want to contribute, and then provide them with opportunities to participate in a meaningful way. Communication is a big thing when it comes to having 40 plus organizations and more members than that. we really needed to find a way to communicate effectively, and this is something we're still working on. So there are platforms like Slack. We've created an internal communication tool. We also share meeting minutes. So really the internet, websites, emails, that's been our biggest method of communication. So those would be the key challenges. Overall, the qualities for success are having this administrative support. So CanAssist has been able to provide the majority of that. Finding that common mission that really speaks to each individual partner, and also engaging those key stakeholders in a meaningful way. So having the right people at the table and having them contribute in a way that's helping to support their initiatives and the initiatives of OneAbility as a whole.
So when we circle back to those 5 conditions of collective impact and how OneAbility has progressed with that work, we, as I said at the beginning when I showed the slide, common agenda we've been pretty clear on throughout. Shared measurement system, we've really identified goals each year and worked towards those goals. We need to look at sort of what our broader impact is and our goal around a measurement for that broader impact. We have continued to undertake mutually reinforcing activities, and that's really through the different constellations has been reinforced on a regular basis. Our communication piece, as Alyssa spoke to, can be a challenge, but we continue to strive to make that better and more efficient. And we've been really fortunate at CanAssist's investment in terms of creating a backbone organization, and they've really self-funded that role in terms of pretty much a half-time person that's been driving that. Mainly that's been Alyssa over the last year and a bit. And so ensuring that we have that administrative support has been really key. And now that we're getting a few more grant opportunities, we're able to help offset that. But CanAssist has really been a key in creating that backbone. So one of the things we wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of think about is how you could replicate a OneAbility in your region, and looking at what some of those attributes would be to get this type of initiative going. And so really it starts with a champion and a facilitator. And in Victoria, Robin Syme, who's the director at CanAssist, and myself were kind of, I'm going to call us the instigators of this work. And Robin's been our chair of the OneAbility stewardship group since inception. And so really a few people that do a lot of the heavy lifting. We've had a number of others join in the heavy lifting as we've gone forward. And then looking at what financial investment can be in terms of creating the backbone structure, finding the common ground that resonates with everyone, so that common agenda, looking at what the culture is, so looking at how we create collaboration versus competition, and inclusive membership. So we have always had an open invitation for anyone who's interested to come and join our meetings and get involved. And as we have successes, we continue to reinforce those and people's contribution to those successes.
So coming back to the communication piece, if you are to replicate OneAbility or a collective impact model like this in your region, you really do need to identify how you will communicate and how each member can best receive that communication, whether it is an online tool like Slack, emails, a communication tool, the website. We also host full year or full group annual year-end reviews. We're just starting to do Constellation chair conference calls to share information that way. So it's a constant evolution, just trying to find a way to keep everybody engaged and share that information.
So we put together a few steps in terms of how to create a OneAbility type initiative, and those are really looking again at sort of how you find your champions, defining your shared purpose, finding the backbone support role, and defining what that structure might look like. And so some questions to consider is, how do you set those collective goals? Do you have to agree on everything? How do you start to find ways where you work together within people's, while respecting people's kind of autonomy and diversity? Who's going to make leadership decisions? And how do we best kind of leverage everyone's talents within the work that we're doing? So in 2017, 2018, we do have our year in review next week, but some of the goals that we're looking towards is we're going to host that OneAbility Promotion Week again at the end of November, early December. So Alyssa showed a slide about that a few minutes ago. We're going to continue to build relationships. We're really targeting relationships with school districts this year. We have 3 school districts across our region. So we've met with each of them to share the work that we're doing and to invite them to be involved. We're kind of constantly trying to build that membership and make sure that people have the opportunity to contribute or be engaged however works best for them. We're now working really closely with the play group, the physical literacy new group, and looking at partnering on that one training opportunity at the physical literacy symposium. We're going to really map the system using long-term athlete development framework and look at what the gaps are in sport and physical activity opportunities for individuals with disabilities across our region. And we're going to develop additional community resources. So we're looking at how we can really share the program opportunities that are happening across the region more broadly to other people that maybe not know about the work we're doing yet. And that is the end of our webinar. So we are now opening it back up for questions, and we appreciate your time and attention so far. So do we have some questions? You can raise your hands if you've got anything that you want to ask, or else you can type it in the question box. No, we answered everything. That's amazing. We are really good presenters, Alyssa. High five. You're certainly welcome to email either of us after the fact. You can see our emails are on the screen, and we also encourage you to visit the oneability.ca website, and that may also help you with any questions that might arise. Okay, we will give it 30 more seconds for questions. Again, we really appreciate your time and attention today, and hope that we were able to give you a good overview about what OneAbility is and how you might approach it if that's of interest in your community. We will, when we send out a email after this webinar, we'll share the slides and also send you the link to the recording so you can share that out to your networks. So I'm going to stop recording the webinar now, and we will end it if we don't have any questions.